The room erupted in laughter the moment the janitor touched the keyboard. It wasn't the polite kind of laughter either. It was the sharp, humiliating kind, the kind that slices deeper than insults. 30 experts in tailored suits sat around the oval glass table on the 42nd floor of Action Dynamics, and every single one of them had already failed. But none of them expected the quiet man who mopped the floors at midnight to try, and none of them were prepared for what would happen next. A week earlier, Action Dynamics had been on the brink of collapse. Founded by visionary CEO Raphael Ardan, the company had once dominated the cybersecurity world. Their flagship AI security engine, Sentinel Core, protected banks, hospitals, even government systems. Raphael was a brilliant strategist, cold when needed, bold when required, but he had built Action from nothing. It was his life. Then came the breach. A silent infiltration that bypassed every layer of Sentinel Core's defenses. It didn't steal data. It didn't destroy files. It simply left a signature. You're not as smart as you think. Within hours, Action stock plummeted. Investors panicked. News outlets speculated. Competitors circled like vultures. Raphael assembled the best minds money could buy. 30 cybersecurity experts from across the world. Dr. Helena Vorik, cryptography legend. Marcus Feld, former military cyber strategist. Ishan Rao, AI architect with 3 patents. Selena Moros, ethical hacker turned security consultant. And 26 others with credentials that filled pages. They were given full access to Sentinel Core's architecture and the breach logs. 3 days passed, but then 5, then 7. The experts worked around the clock, analyzing code, running simulations, testing vulnerabilities. Whiteboards filled with equations, coffee cups stacked high, tempers flared, but the breach remained unsolved. The attacker had left behind a locked digital construct, a puzzle embedded in the system's core. A self-contained sandbox of code that regenerated every time someone tried to break it conventionally. It was elegant, mocking, untouchable. On the 8th day, Raphael stood at the head of the table, jaw tight. Tell me something, he said quietly. 80-thing. Dr. Helena Vorik adjusted her glasses. The structure adapts to intrusion patterns. It anticipates our methods. Marcus Feld slammed a pen down. It's like it knows what we're thinking. Ishan rubbed his eyes. We've thrown every decryption model at it. It's not responding to brute force, heuristics, or AI-assisted logic. Elena folded her arms. It's not a wall. It's a mirror. It's a mirror. Raphael frowned. Explain. It reflects our assumptions back at us, she said. So, we're trying to break it. Maybe that's the wrong approach. Silence filled the room. Outside the glass walls, late-night staff quietly continued their routines, including Milo Renner. Milo was 34, thin, soft-spoken, with observant gray eyes that missed very little. By day, he was invisible. By night, he cleaned offices, emptied bins, wiped fingerprints from glass. He'd been at Action for 2 years. Most people didn't know he had once studied computer science, so they didn't know he had dropped out in his final year when his mother's medical bills became unbearable. They didn't know he still coded at night in his small apartment, building open-source tools no one downloaded. They didn't know he followed every internal memo about Sentinel Core because he genuinely admired the architecture. That night, as he mopped near the conference room, he overheard raised voices. A 30 of the best in the world, Marcus growled. And we're stuck because of 600 lines of adaptive code? A 600? Ishan snapped. It's only 6. Milo froze. 6 lines? That didn't make sense. He pretended to focus on a stubborn smudge on the glass wall, but he listened carefully. Helena sighed. It's a 6-line recursive loop wrapped in dynamic obfuscation. The rest is noise. 6 lines, Raphael repeated softly. 6 lines controlling the entire sandbox. Milo's heart began to race. Later that night, when the experts finally left to grab a few hours of sleep, Raphael remained alone, staring at the frozen code on the massive display. Milo hesitated at the doorway. He shouldn't speak. He was just the janitor. Raphael finally looked at him, irritation flashing. You heard correctly. 6 lines that 30 experts can't solve. Milo nodded slowly. May I see them? Raphael blinked. Excuse me? I studied computer science, Milo said quietly. Billy. I didn't finish, but I think differently, sometimes. For a long moment, Raphael simply stared at him. Exhaustion softened his skepticism. Fine, he said flatly. You can look. It won't matter. Milo stepped inside. The code glowed on the screen. At first glance, it was incomprehensible. a tangle of symbols and dynamic variable generators. But Milo didn't look at the syntax. He looked at the rhythm. And suddenly he saw it. The loop wasn't defensive. It wasn't protective. It was curious. It wasn't stopping attacks. It was asking a question. He stepped closer. May I?" he asked, gesturing toward the keyboard. Raphael let out a dry laugh. 30 experts failed and laughed at the simplicity of it. "Go ahead." The laughter came the next morning. When the experts returned, they found Milo sitting in Raphael's chair. Marcus snorted. "We've hired cleaning staff as consultants now?" Helena raised a brow. "Is this a joke?" Milo stood quickly. "I'm sorry. Raphael cut them off. "He has an idea." The room exploded. "An idea?" Marcus barked. With respect, Isin said, "We've tried everything." Elena watched quietly. Raphael folded his arms. "Let him try." Milo's hands trembled as he approached the keyboard. He didn't try to decode the 6 lines. He didn't try to break them. He typed 6 lines, simple, clear, human. Then he pressed enter. The screen froze, the sandbox flickered, and for the first time in 8 days, the code did something different. It paused. Helena stepped forward. "What did you do?" Milo's voice barely carried. "I answered it." The experts stared at the monitor as the recursive loop unraveled like a knot being gently loosened. The 6 malicious lines weren't encryption. They were a challenge response test. The attacker hadn't built an impenetrable wall. They had built a door. One that only opened if you responded with logic outside conventional cybersecurity patterns. The 6 lines Milo typed weren't an attack. They were a handshake. A question answered with humility instead of force. The sandbox dissolved. Behind it lay a hidden vulnerability, not in Sentinel Core's encryption, but in its predictive bias engine. A flaw no one had considered because it required assuming the system could be wrong. Marcus sank into his chair. Helena whispered, "We kept trying to dominate it." Elena looked at Milo with quiet awe. "You listened." Raphael stared at the young janitor who had just saved his company. "How did you see it?" he asked. Milo swallowed. "Because when you're not the smartest person in the room, you stop trying to win. You start trying to understand." Silence fell. Not mocking this time. Reverent. The vulnerability was patched within hours. The attacker's signature disappeared. Action stock rebounded within days. But something inside the company had shifted permanently. Raphael called an emergency town hall meeting. Hundreds of employees gathered in the atrium, On stage stood the 30 experts, and beside them, Milo. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Raphael stepped forward. "This week," he began, "we faced a crisis that threatened everything we built. 30 of the best minds in the world worked tirelessly." He paused. But the breakthrough came from someone who wasn't even invited into the room. He turned toward Milo. "A talent doesn't always wear a title," Raphael said firmly. "Sometimes it pushes a mop." The applause began slowly, then grew, then thundered. Milo's eyes burned. Raphael announced a full scholarship to complete Milo's degree, a permanent role in Action's research division, and something even more radical, a restructuring of the company's innovation culture. From that day forward, Action implemented Open Floor Fridays. Any employee, from intern to janitor, could present ideas directly to leadership. Within a year, 3 major product improvements came from non-executive staff. Helena later admitted in a conference interview, "We failed because we assumed expertise meant superiority." Marcus added, "Humility is the highest form of intelligence." As for Milo, he never forgot the laughter, but he didn't resent it, because without it, the moment wouldn't have mattered. Years later, when Milo became Chief Innovation Officer of Action Dynamics, a young intern once hesitated outside his office door. "Sir," she said nervously, "this might be stupid." Milo smiled. Good," he replied. "That's where the best ideas start. The world often listens to the loudest voice. False. But sometimes, the one who cleans the room sees what everyone else misses, and sometimes, 6 simple lines can silence 30 experts and leave a CEO speechless, not because they were complicated, but because they were human. And in the end, the greatest security isn't built on arrogance. It's built on understanding. No one at Action Dynamics ever laughed at a janitor again.